Hello everyone, I'm Miss Rauda. I'm here to discuss questions for P5 mock test, questions in paper 2. Means it's a calculated paper. This session will be break into different parts. So we'll be tackling about 10 questions per part, per video. Okay, so the first part we're going to go through would be question 1 to question 10. I'm trying to go through methods or how to solve the questions. All right, so let's begin. For the first question, what is the sum of the values of digit 7 in 374,075? All right, so when you come across this type of questions, you can see that there's a few digit sevens. Okay, and then they said that you are asking for the sum of the values. Okay, so values is asking for what is the amount for the particular digit 7. So if you look carefully, all right, you should be able to tell that the first digit 7 has a value of 70,000 as it's in the 10,000s place. And then the second digit 7 has the value of 70 as it's in the tens place. Okay, so having said that, your first step is to identify the place value of those sevens and then answer what is required of you based on the sum. Okay, so the question is asking you for sum. Sum means to add. Therefore, you know that the values of digit 7 would be 70,000 plus 70. Therefore, it gives you 70,070. Right, so that's the answer for the first question. This question is rather straightforward. Now, let's move on to question number 2. If x is to y is equals to 2 is to 3, x is to z is equals to 3 is to 5, what is x is to y is to z? Now, this question, all right, is testing you on the heuristic skills of repeated identity. Okay, there's a comparison of 2 or more characters. Okay, in this case, the 3 characters involved are X, Y, and Z. Now, between them, there's a person or there's a character that is repeated, which is why we call it repeated identity. So, identify the identity that is repeated. The first is X to Y. Second comparison is X is to Z, which is 3 is to 5. Now, ask yourself if the identity is the same or the character is the same. So by right, if the characters are the same, they should have the same parts. However, in the first scenario, when you compare X is to Y, you have the ratio is 2 is to 3. But when you compare the second scenario, which is X is to Z, the ratio is 3 is to 5. So X is the same person or is the same character, therefore the quantity of X, the value of X should be the same. All right, so repeated identity is to ensure that the quantity or the value of one of the character that is being repeated, the identity that is being repeated should be the same. So how do you solve that? Find the common multiple between 2 and 3. All right, so 2 and 3, the common multiple is, or the smallest common multiple will be 6. Therefore, you can change the value of X to 6. So how do you do that? You will need to multiply it by 3. And for here, you will need to multiply it by 2. All right. Now, however, when you do it for one of the character, you will need to do it for the rest as well in order for it to be fair. So for when you compare x is to y, you multiply it by 3. You will also need to do the same for 3. So 3 times 3. And then you will get 9. And then when it comes to x is to z, you multiply it by 2. You will need to do the same to 5. Okay, so this is what you will get. 2 is to 3. You multiply it by 3. And then your new ratio will be 6 is to 9. Now 3 is to 5. You multiply it by 2. Therefore, your new ratio would be 6 is to 10. So now double check, make sure that your repeated identity now has the same units. All right, so since now they have the same unit, you'll be able to compare them side by side. Therefore, x is to y is to z is 6 is to 9 is to 10. Okay, that would have already been in your simplest form, so you would not need to simplify it anymore. Next, question number 3. Now, this question is about percentage. Okay, as you know, what is 120% of 850? In order to solve this, you need to be able to convert or change your percentage to fraction. Percentage change to fraction would be 120% is 120 out of 100. Now, of, as you know, would mean multiply. Therefore, to solve this question, you just need to take 120 out of 100, multiply by 850. So to work that out, 120 out of 100, you will get multiplied by 850 is 1020. What you can also do would be cancellation. So you cancel all the zeros, you are left with 12 times 85. So 12 times 85 would be 1020. All right, now let's move on to question number 4. A cup is 1/4 filled with tea. The tea is then poured into an empty jug, which has a capacity thrice that of the cup. What fraction of the jug is filled with tea? So what you need to understand now is this cup is 1/4 filled. All right, and then whatever that's in this cup is now poured into an empty jug. So the cup is 4 units, and the jug would be 3 times. Two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, not drawn to scale. So basically the first model is representing the cup. Second model is representing the jug. So since the cup is the jug is 3 times or thrice the quantity of the cup, therefore when you pour it into the jug, the unit will change, the fraction will change. So instead of 1/4, it now becomes 1 out of 12. Okay, so what's another way to solve this? Right, you know that since the capacity of the jug is three times that of the cup, so whatever that is being poured into the jug will be divided by 3. It will get smaller. Okay, so instead of 1:4, now you will be thrice. Therefore, you will need to divide it by 3. So your first step would be to solve this would be to take 1/4, divide it by 3. Okay, when it comes to this is division of fraction. You will need to apply your keep, change, or flip, or keep, change, and invert. Okay, so what do you keep? You will need to keep your 1/4, and then you will need to change your sign and invert the last one instead of invert or flip. So instead of 3 out of 1, you will need to swap it around. Okay, so how do you solve this? It'll be 1/4 multiplied by 1/3. That would give you the answer. Okay, so keep, change, and flip. So 1/4 multiplied by 1/3, you will get 1 out of 12, which is exactly the same as your model. Okay, so 1 out of 12. Next, question number 5. 1/6 of Bala's marbles is equivalent to 1/4 of Ben's. Now, if Bala have 10 marbles more than Ben, how many marbles do they have all together? So this would be equal fractions. All right, so you know that 1/6, if I were to draw Bala's model, so this is Bala and this is Ben. Okay, so BA is Bala, BA is Ben. Now, Bala has 10 marbles more than Ben. How many marbles do they have all together? So first question is to ask yourself, what is the difference between the number of units that Bala has and the number of units that Ben has? So since Bala has a total of 6 units and Ben has a total of 4 units, the difference between the two would be 2 units. So 6 minus 4 equals to 2. Now that you know the difference is 2 units, so you know that 2 units is equals to 10. Right? So 2 units is equals to 10. You would be able to now find 1 unit. So 1 unit would be 10 divided by 2. And then the question asked you for how many marbles do they have all together. So since Bala has 6, Ben has 4. So 6 plus 4 equals to 10. So you can find 10 units. So 10 units would be 5 times 10, which would give you 50. And that's how you get the answer, 50. Now next question, question number 6. Now Sammy drew a series of triangles. Only 3 of them were shown below. So if the area of his last drawn triangle in the whole series was 72 centimeters squared, what was the total number of triangles that we have? Or what was the total number of triangles that he drew? Right, so you know that the formula for area of triangles, you would need to memorize these, know these by heart, because you will always see these wherever you go. Area of triangle is equals to half times base times perpendicular height. All right, so half times base times height. So you can apply this formula to find out what is the pattern. Okay, now, so since the area of the last drawn triangle in the whole series was 72, you should be able to find the base and the height. Okay, so ask yourself, look carefully, what is the pattern that you see so far? So if you have noticed, the base and the height of the triangle are the same. So we have 2 cm base, 2 cm height. 4 cm base, 4 cm height, 6 cm base, and 6 centimeters height. Okay, so that's the pattern. So as long as you are able to find the base times height, you should be able to solve what's the number of triangles that we draw. Okay, so now we know that the area was 72. So we can find out half times base times height is area. So you can find out 72 divided by half. All right. And this is actually what you're looking for here is your base times height, this portion. Okay, so half times base times height is area of triangle, right? Therefore, when you divide it by half, you are actually finding your base times height. And remember, we have established earlier that the pattern, the base, and the height is actually the same. So what you can do is you are able to find your square root of 144. So basically, ask yourself, blank times blank equals to 144. And you're trying to find out what are these two numbers. And the key thing is these two numbers or these two digits have to be the same. Okay, so the fastest way is to find your square root. You should be able to use your square root button on your calculator. So what is the square root of 144, or what is the missing number here? Okay, so if you memorize your times table, you should be able to tell me that 12 times 12 would give you 144. Okay, and then this means that the triangle that Sammy drew would look like that. So this base would be 12, and the perpendicular height would also be 12. That's what he drew. Okay, but 12 is not the final answer. You will need to be able to identify what is the number or the pattern of the triangle. So if you look closely, pattern number 3. Okay, how do you identify the pattern? You can just take the height and the base, divide it by 2. Okay, so pattern 1, 2 divided by 2, you'll get 1. Then pattern 2, 4 divided by 2, you'll get 2. Then pattern 3, 6 divided by 2, you'll get number 3. Therefore, if the height is 12 or the base is 12, you just need to divide it by 2. So it's pattern number 6. Okay, or the triangle's number 6, the 6th triangle. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. The figure below is made up of 3 squares, P, Q, and R. The area of square P is 1/4 the area of square Q. The area of square Q is 4 out of 9 of the area of square R. So what is the ratio of the area of the shaded part to the area of all the unshaded parts in the figure? So give your answer in its simplest form. Okay, it looks quite difficult, but if you digest the question or you split the question sentence by sentence, it shouldn't be too hard. So as you know that square P is 1 unit. Square Q, on the other hand, is 4 units. So this is 1, and Q, the entire unit of Q is 4, right? Now next, you can identify square Q is 4, no change to the earlier fraction, and square R is 9. Nine inclusive of Q, okay? Basically inclusive of the earlier pattern, the earlier squares. Now, so you can express them all now in ratio. P is to Q is to R would be 1 is to 4 is to 9. Okay, so this one is quite straightforward. Now, so what you need to do is to find out what is the area of the shaded part. Okay, so since this is 4, this is 1, the shaded part would be 4 minus 1, which is equals to 3. So shaded part would be 4 is to 1 is to 3. And then that is quite straightforward. We have already established shaded part, which is 4 minus 1. Now, unshaded parts of the figure. So all you need to do is to take 9, minus away P and Q, which is 5. Therefore, you would get 6. Okay, so this part is 6. Oh, sorry, this is 5. My bad. 9 minus 5. Okay, so we have 4, right? The area of 4. 4 minus 1, this is 3. The whole part of 9, the whole part of R is 9. So 9 minus 3 minus 1, you would get 5. Okay, so means that the unshaded, this is 1, 3, and 5 is not inclusive of the, basically it's just that particular portion. So this whole thing is 1. The shaded part is 3. And this part here is 5. Okay, so you just need to minus accordingly. So once you minus, your total unshaded part would be 6. Your total unshaded part would be 6. Okay, so the total unshaded part would be 6. How do I get 6? Earlier, I've established this is 1 and this is 5, right? So 1 plus 5 is 6. Now, next, your shaded part is 3. We have established that as well. 4 minus 1 is to 3, equals to 3. So what is the ratio of the shaded part to the unshaded part? It will be 3 is to 6. Okay, but don't stop there. You need to leave your answer in simplest form. Therefore, the final answer is 1 is to 2. All right, let's move on to question number 8. The following figure, not drawn to scale, is made up of sequence of isosceles triangles. So don't forget, isosceles triangle means two sides are the same, which means that two corresponding angles are equal. Okay, so if BAC is equals to 16, AG and AF are straight line. Where is G though? I would think G is here. Yeah. Okay, so AG and AF are straight lines. Find BEF. So your angle, the angle that you're supposed to find is this one. Okay, so when you see this type of question, the first thing you should do is to identify or write down all the angles that you know. All right, so if this is 16, this would mean that This is 16.2. Okay, which also means that you would be able to find this angle here, which is angle ABC. So your first step is to find angle ABC, which is isosceles, right? Therefore, it's 180 minus 16 minus 16. Okay, now subsequently, once you find, so this is step number 1. Now, subsequently, after you are able to find that angle, you should be able to find here, BBC. So this would be your step number 2. Okay, so let's work it out. So your first angle, ABC, would be 180 minus 16 minus 16. All right, which would give you 148. And because AG is a straight line, therefore you should be able to find this angle here, which is 180 minus 148, which would give you 32. Okay, it's a series of isosceles triangle. So this means that this part here is also 32. Which now comes to my next part. You would be able to find angle BCD. This is step number 3. Okay, so how do you find BCD? You just need isosceles triangle. Therefore, 180 minus 32 minus 32, which would give you 116. All right, so we have established here to be 116. And here earlier was 16. Okay, so you see where this is going? You would now then be able to find this angle. Which would be step number 4. All right, so how to find angle DCE? You just need to take 180 minus 116 minus 16. Okay, so step number 4 would be DCE. So it's 180 minus 116 minus 16. That would give you 48 degrees. Okay, and since it's an isosceles, therefore this is also 48 degrees. And your last and final step to find angle DEF would be to take 180 degrees minus 48 degrees. So you would get 132 degrees. So the final answer would be 132 degrees. Okay, do not forget your units. Now next, let's move on to question number 9. Jamila paid $110.76 for a piece of cloth to sew a dozen pillowcases. So dozen, you don't come across this word very often, but a dozen means it's a group of 12. Okay, so 1 dozen, you know, when you go buy your donuts, okay, you will see then they sell it like 1 box of 6 or a dozen. A dozen means it's 1 box of 12. All right, so 12 pillowcases. If she used 65 centimeter of cloth for each pillowcase, what was the cost of 4 meters of the cloth? Okay, so you know that a dozen cost of one pillowcase would be sorry, not cost. 65 centimeter of cloth for each pillowcase. You will need to use okay, let me hold on. Let me see the answer. Okay, there's a couple of ways to solve this, okay? But now since the answer key is this way, so we shall solve it using the monetary sign instead. All right, so first, $110.76 for 12 pillowcases. So your first step, you can find one pillowcase, how much does it cost? All right, so $110.70, you can divide it by 12, which will give you $9.23. Now this $9.23 is actually for one pillowcase, which is about 0.65 meters. Why do we need to convert it to meters? Okay, is to ensure that the units are the same. All right, since you need to find 4 meters, so you just convert 0.65 meters. Okay, leave it in the same unit. Now, so how do you find 1 meter? So what you can do is you can take $9.23 divided by 0.65 meters. Okay, so we have established one pillowcase is 0.65. So to find 1 meter, you'll take $9.23 divided by 0.65 meters, which when you use your calculator would give you $14.20. Right? And then from here, it should be quite easy for you to find 4 meters. All you need to do is to multiply it by 4. So 4 meters, $14.20, multiply it by 4 would give you $56.80. Okay, now, so what's another way to solve it? Okay, so you can solve it using the length instead. Okay, so your first step is to find out how much or what's the amount that's used for 1 dozen pillowcases. So same thing, this would be in meters. So 1 pillowcase is 0.65. If you need to sew 12, you will use a total of 7.8 meters. Okay, so 7.8 meters would cost you $110.76. And then you can find 1 meter from there, which is $110.70 divided by 7.8. That would also give you $14.20. And then the last step would be 4 meters, therefore $14.20, multiply it by 4, which would also give you $56.80. Okay, so there's 2 ways to solve it, depending on which way you're more comfortable with. You can either solve from the meter angle, which is, to find the cost first, okay, or you find it from the length first. It doesn't matter. It will lead you to the same answer. Okay, now moving on, let's move on to our very last question for this section, which is question number 10. The average salary of Rita and Tom is 3,200, while that of Rita and Sunil is 3,500. So now we have two characters, Rita and Tom, 3,200. We also have Rita and Sunil, which is 3,500. Now the total salary of Tom and Sunil is 3,800. Okay, so how much is Rita's salary? So how do you solve this? Okay, you can, since this is an average, okay, so it's an average. Therefore, in order to find the total amount of Rita and Tom, you will need to multiply it by 2. Okay, so same thing, Rita and Sunil average is 3,500. So to find the total salary, you will also need to multiply it by 2. So this is what you would get. Okay, so here, this is the total of Rita and Sunil. No, sorry, Rita and Tom. And this is the total of Rita and Sunil. Okay, so it's indicated here. R plus T is Rita plus Tom. R plus S is Rita plus Sunil. Now, so if I were to combine these together, this is what it will look like in a model. If it's clearer to understand. Oops. So let's see, we have Rita and Tom. And we also have Rita and Sunil. Okay, now we cannot forget this sentence here. Tom and Sunil is 3,800. So here, the one that I shaded, which is Tom and Sunil, these two, when you add them up, they will get 3,800. So from here, you can actually find out, okay, because you know that Rita and Tom is 6,400, Rita and Sunil is 7,000, and you know the value of Tom and Sunil, which is 3,800. So what you can do is you are able to now find this part, this Rita, as well as this Rita. Okay, so how do you do that? You will need to minus. So you add both values, you add Rita and Tom, which is 6,400, and then you add Rita plus Sunil, which is 7,000, and then you get rid of the ones that are shaded. You will find the two Ritas. Okay, so this was what I meant. Okay, so first you add them up, and then you get rid of Tom and Sunil. Okay, however, the value here, this is not just one Rita. So you look at the model, see, there's one here and there's another one here. So it's actually 2 units of Rita. So to find out Rita's salary, you will need to divide it by 2. So 9,600 divided by 2, you will get 4,800. Okay, so that's Rita's amount. Okay, but what you can always do is you can always double check. Okay, if you have time, you can double check and then you'll see that, yes, Rita's value or Rita's salary is actually 4,800. All right, so we have now come to the end of the first session, which is question 1 to 10. So at any point on time, If let's say we are going or I am going too fast, you can always pause the recording. All right. So till next time, thank you very much.